Absolute Superman might just be my favorite Superman ever.
Attention Span Edition.
The second issue of Absolute Superman was just as amazing as everything else coming out of the Absolute universe, so let's just jump right in and break it down. And if you don't watch this video all the way through, your attention span sucks, and James Gunn's Superman movie is gonna get a 22% on Rotten Tomatoes. So we pick up 6 years in the past with Cal's teacher scolding him on the story he wrote about the dangers that the loggers faced in the glass forests of Eureka because it didn't have a credible source. It was supposed to be sourced from the Cleric's Luminarium, which supposedly contained all knowledge of the Science League throughout history, but as we all know, Cal's parents, Laura and Jor, don't really see eye to eye with the Clerics and the Science League because they ignore serious issues and stress markers having to do with their planet's well-being. It's pretty much the same old story we're all too familiar with. Jor tries warning everybody that Krypton's in danger, everyone ignores him, and then the planet goes boom. So Cal being an environmentalist and rebelling against what he's been taught isn't really much of a surprise. Either way though, his teacher wanted to talk to his parents after class to try and get him back in line, but completely unbothered by his teacher's concerns, Cal decided to take a nap with his dog Crypto. The story then shifts over to present-day Brazil with him and Lois Lane handcuffed together while she demanded him to stand down in the name of Lazarus Corp. So Cal's suit, Soul, the one that can talk to him, suggested that he flee the scene. However, immediately upon trying to do so, Cal realized that he wasn't able to break the cuffs without ripping Lois's arm off. Moments later, Lois would blast him with her stun gun, prompting Soul to try getting the cuffs off himself. Now, honestly, I don't even really know how to describe this. Soul literally just goes full symbiote, detaching itself from Cal's arm and sort of flowing all around the cuffs to try and sever the connection. Meanwhile, Cal is just worried about Lois's well-being. Even though she blasted him just a few moments ago, he didn't want Soul to hurt her. But all the Lazarus agents seeing Soul crawl around her arm assumed that Cal was trying to hurt her somehow. So they just started unloading rounds into him without a single moment of hesitation. Knowing that if he took any more shots, he'd be taken for prisoner, Cal then deployed his cape to shield himself. And you may or may not have seen my video on his new cape about a week ago, but if you didn't, this is unlike any other cape we've seen him wear before in the sense that it's actually made out of sunstone dust from Krypton. In the midst of shielding himself though, nothing really changed for the better, because not only did Soul realize that the metal the cuffs were made out of was self-healing, but Lois wouldn't stop trying to make Cal submit even though he was trying to protect her from the crossfire. So eventually Cal was like, yeah, okay, screw this, we're getting out of here, blasting off into the sky and using his cape to hold Lois in place so her body wouldn't rip in half. As you can see from this freaking Helitank though, Lazarus Corp is relentless, and they were so set on Cal's downfall that despite the fact that he was carrying Lois with him, they blasted him with a set of 2 missiles which sent both of them plummeting to the ground, igniting a massive explosion. Thankfully, Cal's cape was enough to keep them alive, but I guess Lois is just an ungrateful piece of crap because soon after that she stunned him yet again, completely disregarding how many times he just saved her life, because in her eyes it was more like he was endangering her by not submitting. Now at this point in the issue, things calmed down enough for them to have a little discussion. A discussion that was anything but calm. Lois wanted to know where Cal got his powers from, expressing that the people had a right to know. Superman begged to differ though, asking when had Lazarus Corp ever given a damn about anyone's rights because they treated people like livestock. In his eyes, people like Lois were everything wrong with this planet. People who were arrogant and selfish who believed they were smarter than everyone else. Soul, on the other hand, just wanted Cal to stop talking because he was giving Lois way too much information about himself. He kinda implied that he wasn't from Earth, which unsurprisingly led to Lois asking what his planet was. However, before he was able to answer, a massive explosion erupted thanks to the Helitank tracking them down and shooting another round of missiles. And this part kinda surprised me because, I don't know, I guess this version of Superman kills, because right after the tank started shooting missiles, he lifted up a nearby car, launching it at the Helitank and causing it to come crashing down. Like, there's no way they survived that, right? Anyways, as the issue moves forward, Supes knows exactly what he has to do because so many people were injured amongst all the explosions and chaos, so he makes his way throughout the town, picking out people underneath rubble, shielding them with his cape, and then touching their wounds with it in order to heal them. So yeah, his cape is insanely OP in this universe, and what's pretty interesting about it is that it's actually a part of his suit, and the bigger he makes it, the smaller his suit gets. So if he's healing a lot of people and really putting it to use, he kinda becomes naked, so there's that. But after helping everybody and putting out all the fires, Clark tells Lois thank you. Not because of something she did, but because of something she didn't do. You see, she was moments away from pulling out her gun and stunning him for the 100th time, but I guess at some point she had a change of heart. And that change of heart finally allowed them to have a civil discussion where Clark talks about how precious Earth is because there weren't any other places like it. Most of the stars in the sky were orbited by nothing more than chunks of rock and methane. It even got to a point where Cal almost revealed what his planet was called, but then Sol finally managed to unlock the cuffs, and before finishing his sentence, he blasted off into the sky. Now, despite hating Cal's guts at first because of his continuous refusal to surrender, after seeing what he did for all the innocent civilians, Lois was like, maybe this guy isn't so bad after all. It really just seems like he wants to help people. So in her report about him, she requested a full-time assignment to study him further. She wanted to know everything she could about him, and it kind of feels like she's developing a crush or something, because aside from noting how powerful and soft-spoken he was in her report, she also expressed how amazing he smelled. What's crazy though is that later on, while describing her interaction with him to what she thought was Lazarus Corp's computer system, Brainiac was listening in on the other side the whole time without her knowing. And basically what he was doing was twisting her words. She'd say something good about Cal, and he'd manipulate the computer to write something negative about Cal, eventually exclaiming that he needed to be terminated. After that, we finally get another flashback of Krypton before its destruction during a power outage. As Clark ran outside to play with Crypto, Jor asked Laura if an invention she made as a kid would work in outer space. That invention being none other than Cal's suit. It was originally an exploratory spacesuit as well as a rocket ship all in one. And the technology inside was intended to be their ticket off the planet, but as stated by Laura, they were gonna need a lot more sunstone because the prototype she made was intended for a child. The issue then brings us back over to Cal in present day, walking towards Venezuela, where a sign reads, "Lazarus means death, join the Omega Men." Now, we don't really know what this means at this point, but I don't know, I feel like the Omega Men might just have something to do with Darkseid, but we'll see. And as this issue comes to a close, the Peacemakers actually start killing all the civilians that Cal had recently just saved because they were under the assumption that they knew where Cal was hiding. But sadly, that's where this issue comes to an end, guys. But if you want to see what happens next, let me know in the comments down below, and I freaking love you.